An interview with Shoshana Ehrenfeld about living in Williamsburg in the 30s and 40s. Mrs. Ehrenfeld was born in Williamsburg in 1937 and lived there until she got married at the age of 18. We asked her to tell us about how her family ended up in Williamsburg and about her experiences as a child growing up there.
Well, in Williamsburg, the early part, when I lived there weren't too many Jews. Mostly they were Irish people. They were nasty, they hated the Jews, and they did not make any bones about it. They taunted you. It was not pleasant. But we lived there. We had our own little community in Williamsburg, and we lived there. Then after the war, we had an influx of two types of people. Of course, President Truman lifted the ban on the Jews, and he let the Jews come.
The Truman Directive was an executive order issued by President Harry S. Truman in 1945 that would allow entry to displaced persons. By 1947, more than 15,000 displaced Jews entered the United States under provisions of the Truman Directives.
And the other ones were Puerto Ricans. They came in also.
Williamsburg, being a largely industrial area, attracted thousands of Puerto Ricans by the abundance of available factory jobs.
Why did your parents come to Williamsburg?
Go back one step. My grandfather came to America before World War I. A lot of them even came because they wanted to have a better life. There was no money. It was a terrible time. So he came. And he was here for a few years. They set up a yeshiva, Torah Das. He was the Rebbe. My Zayda was the Rebbe. Wow. He was a Rebbe of all classes.
Yeshiva Torah Vadas was established in September of 1918 by a small group of observant immigrant parents in Williamsburg who were deeply concerned about the Jewish education their children would receive in their new country. The now 2,000-student institution began with a mere 20-student class.
And we developed a nice community there. Everybody went to see the Zaydas and the Babas, Shabbos in the morning. That was a beautiful life. That part of, I remember with good memories. It was family-oriented. We all had a good time. We were cousins growing up together. We were all together in that Williamsburg community, and we enjoyed it.
Mrs. Ehrenfeld delightfully reminisced when I asked her about the childhood games she used to play.
I want to know more about your memories as a child. Like, did you play outside?
Yes, we played stoop ball.
Okay.
Everybody there were tenements, and we had stoops going up, and we used to play stoop balls. And we used to play hopscotch. We used to, roller skates. Roller skates was a big thing. And we used to take a crate, not us, the boys would do it. They would take a crate, orange crate or whatever, and they would nail it with a piece of wood and 2 pieces of roller skate, and we would have a scooter. Those were fun days. It was, you didn't go into the store and buy this and that because it wasn't there. And it was so much better to make your own. The fruit man would come, fruit and vegetable man would come every day or every other day. He came with a wagon pulled by a horse. And she would buy her fruits and vegetables. That was a nice thing to remember too. The next thing that came along every day or every other day was the Iceman. He also came on a wagon with a horse. And he would chisel away the ice. And this he had to take up. Women couldn't take that up. And sometimes you had an ice box, which was the cutest thing. Now the little cubby was for the ice, and then there was the right side. You had enough to put things to keep it cool. Every night to empty the water from underneath. Those were fun things. And then when you didn't have an ice box, that happened to us when we moved once. There was no ice box. There was no refrigerator. Luckily, we moved in the wintertime. My father took a crate, and he connected it to the window outside by the kitchen, and we put in the milk and the eggs and the butter. That's it. We didn't have to have giant foods in there, only the emergency foods. Then in the spring, we had the milk, and they would come in bottles. There's Roebuck. In bottles.
In glass bottles? Glass
bottles. And if you were smart, like my mother was smart, she would take off the cream from the top, because the top, it wasn't And she would make her own butter. The top part she used to cream the coffee. My father took the bottom part, and he would make yogurt from the bottom part. And he loved it. He loved the yogurt. He wanted us to like it, but we didn't. But that's how it was.
With 5 children and a difficult economy, Mrs. Ehrenfeld's mother had to work.
My mother would make neckties, neckties by hand. She would get, if she got a lot of money, it was 10 cents a dozen.
Wow.
For sewing it. She did it sometimes in a shop, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good in the shop. She was frightened. One of the big shop ladies threatened her with a scissor.
Mrs. Ehrenfeld was hesitant to recall some of the horrific encounters her mother had to endure while working in the sweatshops. It became so bad that she eventually worked only from home.
I went to the Beis Yaakov over there, which was across the street from the Brooklyn Public Library on Division Avenue. High school, I went to Eastern District High School. And we used to go to the movies every Sunday. There's no movie house in Williamsburg today anymore.
What type of movies did you see?
All the nice musicals. Yeah, we saw The Three Musketeers, we saw A Date with Judy. Most of the videos I have, all these nice musicals. Yeah. I love them. 17 cents.
That's a lot of money.
No. 18 cents because we had 7 cents left to spend. I usually ran over until they threw you out.
Yeah, but until they threw you out.
But they had nice movies. They really did. They had Casablanca, but that was already an adult film. I'm talking about what I went with my friends. All of those musicals. We had the Commodore Theater, which was on Hooper Street and Broadway. We had the Marcy Theater, which was on Marcy Avenue and Broadway. And then you had the Williamsburg Theater, which had low-key films. That was awful. My brother used to love to go there, and he would have a bag of carrots.
Okay.
And eat carrots while he was watching the film.
Instead of popcorn?
Everybody was screaming at him because he was making noise, crunchies.
What happened when you were 18 that you left Williamsburg?
Well, I was supposed to get married by 18. They made a shidduch, and I was not living anymore in Williamsburg. We moved already to Flatbush because they were trying to redo the streets. They were making highways now through Williamsburg. You must have seen that there were highways throughout Williamsburg. Mm-hmm. So the houses had to come down. So we had to move.
Do you have anything to do with Williamsburg today?
Yeah, I love to go. Oh, sure, we have relatives there. But I love to go there because not so much to see the relative, to see the streets, to see how it developed. I was so amazed. Rifki took me on a trip to Williamsburg because I don't get around much anymore. So she took me on a trip into Williamsburg and down by DeKalb Avenue and all those streets. They took it over, the buildings, and they built them up so beautifully with balconies. And I went down there with her. I was so happy to see how it developed. So Williamsburg definitely developed beautifully. It was not bad when I think of it overall. I miss Williamsburg to this day. Yes, I do miss those days. They'll never come back. I can't think of anything more.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.